Hello, and welcome to Anime Audio Commentary. Today I'll be commenting on episode 7 of Don't Toy With Me, Miss Nagatoro. If you'd like to watch along, then start watching now. So it would seem to me that this episode is going to have the classic iconic festival episode where everybody, goes to the festival, does the iconic classic festival things. The girls wear yakutas and all that. I think that's what they're called. Naturally, this is going to be a point of contention, because obviously Senpai's not going to go on his own, and I feel like he's probably never gone, so whether he wants to or not, Nagataro's likely going to drag him along, but I feel like he's due for a victory at this point. Maybe Nagatoro will invite him along and it will actually be fun. But at the same time, he's just sort of sitting around playing video games, and she's not calling him. I do like that Senpai's sort of thinking about taking the initiative here, Maybe I should ask her, be a little more forward about things. He does raise a good point, kind of, in that if he were to ask Nagatoro, the likely response is that she would just tease him relentlessly for it. But, we the audience know that might not necessarily be the case. I mean, I'm sure there would be some teasing, but it would really be more a front to hide how embarrassed she is, I guess, So Senpai seems to have done the uncharacteristic thing and gone to the festival by himself. Man, I was gonna say, isn't that a coincidence? Nagatoro just sort of walked by, but... Oh no, it is, it's Nagatoro's friends at least, so... That surely means she's not far behind. I guess it's just Senpai's bad luck that he ran into them first, seeing as how they don't seem to care about him nearly as much as Nagatoro does. Oh dear. It seems like they have entirely hit the nail on the head here. They've sort of pinged the reason why he decided to show up. But unfortunately, she's already busy doing stuff with her club. So, You know, that really kind of sucks considering she was the only reason he showed up. And it sucks even more now that he's sort of stuck with her two friends. Poor guy. He definitely doesn't deserve this. Okay, you know what? Maybe I just sort of misinterpreted things. She's not doing festival stuff with her club, she's at her club. So she didn't even get the opportunity to sort of not invite Senpai. Oh dear. So now the plot's becoming pretty clear. Given that her friends are sort of putting him on a short leash, figuratively and literally, Nagatoro's gonna, like, drop the hammer on them or something. Oh dear. I feel like Senpai's trying to tempt fate here, you know? Why would Nagatoro just show up? That would be crazy. As if he's not secretly hoping she'll show up. Oh dear, she is flustered. You know, I kind of have to wonder what precisely is going on. Like, they're ostensibly friends, but I feel like this is distinctly unfriendly behavior here. Although at the same time, I feel like her friends are biting off a little bit too much more than they can chew. You know, Nagatoro's not playing around here. And, you know, maybe giving Nagatoro a firearm is not exactly a good idea, you know. Whether or not it's an actual firearm, can you really trust her not to turn it on them? Oh, Nagatoro knows what's up. Yeah, like all carnivals, these sort of games are just absolutely rigged, so you sort of have to leverage your knowledge of physics to win. You know, the idea here is that the things you're trying to knock off the shelf are not liable to fall very easily, so you need to exert the maximum amount of torque possible by lengthening the lever arm, which is to say, you shoot it near the top. Now this is interesting, because on the one hand, you have some sort of sincere, kind of intimate music while Nagatoro is teasing him about inviting her along. Oh dear. Hint, 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 senpai. Now, I'm someone who's not normally a proponent of, like, people hinting at what they want, but, you know, if that's a hint, I'm an elephant. Like, you might want to ask someone directly, senpai, wink, wink, nudge, nudge. Oh dear. It seems, they didn't really establish up front the criteria for victory. They just sort of said the best prizes. You know, with best being a rather nebulous term. You know, best in terms of quality, best in terms of quantity. Regardless of any of that, Nagatoro seems to have won via subterfuge. So I find it interesting that Nagatoro took the collar off rather than sort of lord it over him. Oh dear. You know, this is really like an eventuality that nobody planned for. The two of them are now alone together, and they sort of cautiously decide to stick around. So, in a way, this is almost exactly like an unofficial kind of date. They're going around enjoying the carnival, eating, talking, feeding each other. Woo boy. Oh dear. It's not a date because we didn't go through the proper procedure. We need to get a form signed in triplicate to make it an official date. Oh dear. That really is just a hellish notion that you would have to fill out paperwork for a date. Wow, this really went 0 to 60. Nagatoro proposes holding hands. Surely this can't be a sincere offer. I mean, they don't have protection. Although the way she's smirking, I can only imagine that this is going to be, I don't know, something she's going to hold over his head. Like, ooh, you really wanted to hold hands on the first date? We're not even married, tee hee hee. I can't help but wonder if she's sort of chickened out on her own. Fireworks are now taking precedent to holding hands. Alright, so now that they're actually going to watch a fireworks display, this is really sort of hitting all the boxes here in terms of what stereotypically happens. If this were like the last episode of the season, I can only imagine that somebody would confess, in all likelihood Nagatoro, and what she said would be obscured by the sound of the fireworks. Oh dear. Yeah, man, the movement of the crowd is too much. Nagatoro's getting swept away in the current. Senpai, this is your time to act. You have to grab her by the hand. There we go, Senpai. You gotta show what you're made of by being forthright like this. We're not following the line. We're going this way. We're taking a detour. I will lead you. Man, Giga Chad Senpai went. Like, he's gonna go to the gym and get jacked. We can only hope. Nagatoro's not blind about this whole thing. You're leading me into the woods by ourselves. Surely you don't intend to hold hands with me and interlock our fingers. That'd be a little too much for a first date. Fortunately, Senpai has much more innocent intentions. He just wants to go to the spot where he saw the fireworks when he was a kid. Because, it's a nice, nostalgic thing to do. Oh, Nagatoro. She has to ruin it just a little bit, The nostalgia's not real. You're totally feigning it. You just wanted to get me alone into the woods. I mean, she sort of all but told him, why don't you take the initiative by asking me out? But now when he does take the initiative to do something, she just sort of gives him crap for it. Uh-oh. Senpai's not playing around anymore. He's gonna start hitting back, proverbially. Uh-oh. Oh, man, he's making her spell it out. Like, he makes a good point. She's not willing to sort of, list all the stuff out in detail. Wow, she actually, like, went there and spelled out what precisely she expects him to do, so, I mean, he wasn't planning on doing that, but I don't know. I feel like this is a hint. You know, this is what I thought you were gonna do, so why don't you do it, Senpai? Calling your bluff. Oh dear. Man, you know, it seems like they really did pick the wrong spot in terms of there's a whole bunch of other kissing couples around. I have to say, I really wouldn't want to watch a fireworks show in a situation like that either. You know, that is a good point that Nagatoro raises. They sort of swerved around that trope. Nagataro's friends wore their yukatas, but she didn't. And, you know, that's normally a big staple. But, oh dear, Senpai's going for it. You know, he's taking her advice into account here. I mean, granted, he's really banking on the future, you know. The festival is next year, so why don't we wear yukatas then? You know, I have to wonder if Nagatoro doth protest too much. You know, wearing matching yukatas. That would be like a nice thing as a couple, I guess. Uh-oh, Senpai. You don't have to snoop in on people. You can just sort of like walk up and say, hi, dude. I mean, I guess I can understand his trepidation, given that 3 of the 4 are hostile to him openly. You know, I think Senpai raises a good point here about how Nagataro's been spending a lot of time with him, and by necessity that means she's not spending a lot of time with her friends. You know, I'm wondering if that's not going to become like a bit of a plot point later. Like her friends are like, alright, Nagatoro, you gotta pick one. Either that or Senpai's gotta hang out with us too, which I'm sure he won't really want to do. But more important than any of that is that Nagatoro and her friends were sort of talking about getting asked out and rejecting boys. So it really seems like a lot of guys ask Nagatoro out and she turns them all down. So I think that really gives credence to the idea that she has it bad for Senpai. I mean, she just rejects this guy, like, out of hand. And, like, she doesn't even do it in an exuberant way. She's just sort of, like, very calm and nonchalant about it. You know, it's entirely different from how she interacts with Senpai. Oh. Oh, here we go. This is it. This is where everything changes. Senpai is going to be an absolute Giga Chad and just beat up that guy for Nagataro's honor. So I wonder if they're sort of going to use him to get rid of the other guys just because they don't want to hang around with a guy like him. I can only wonder. Wow. Yeah, he's not initiating a fight, but he's still saying, like, hey, Nagatoro, let's go blow this popsicle stand. And she's going along with it. So, I guess it kind of worked. Man, I'd really hate to be those two guys right now where, like, you rock up and start talking to girls, and then a much goofier dude comparatively steals all the girls. Man, and they don't even really care about how they just sort of, like, got up and left. Not like they should, but, boy, everybody just wants to hang out with Senpai, I guess. Ooh, Senpai. You don't want to make that distinction. Just don't pursue that line of questioning. Like, yeah, I draw manga, but it's not hentai. Just don't even engage with that question. Man, feel kind of bad for him. Like, at least Nagatoro is sort of teasing him in good fun, but boy, that's a bad reputation to be stuck with. Alright, well that's it for this episode. If you've enjoyed it, then by all means, tune in for the next one. See you, Space Cowboy.